Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to New York Islanders franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we made some pretty tough decisions in the re-sign stage portion of the last episode. And yeah, it was basically a really tough time for our team to basically let go of these players, but it was probably the right call to let go of them. So we ended up letting go of like Fido, we ended up letting go of Solovyov, and we also ended up letting go of Tatar, as well as I think some other players as well, but those being the big ones. So next season is going to be quite interesting because we've normally been running Solovyov for like 7+ years at this point in time. Well, now it's going to be a big chance for the two young goaltenders to basically show us that maybe they could help this team to a Stanley Cup win. So we have both Komatov and Nicholas, who are the exact same age, exact same overall, and very similar potential. So going to be interesting to see who ends up taking over that starting job as the season goes on, but I think we're probably going to have them like do like a bit of a split where they both play around 40 something games depending on what they coach does and all that stuff with the auto rotation and that type of thing. So excited to see that. From a defensive standpoint, like I said, we'd let go of Tatar, which kind of sucks because Tatar was one of my favorite probably defensemen on this team, but we had to let him go, which means Schaefer will get a big chance this year to play on that top two pairing with Houghton. Houghton will be likely playing the right side since he's an offensive defenseman. And then aside from that, we do have some RFAs holding out at the moment, those being Holmstrom and Carlton. So those guys are going to be also in the top four, which should be interesting to see what Carlton can do in a top four situation next to Holmstrom. And then from the other defensive standpoint, we have a bunch of defensemen that are kind of competing for that top six. The only thing that kind of sucks, though, is both Erzberg and Granato are offensive defensemen. Howden's also an offensive defenseman, and same with Holmstrom. So these two guys, despite being some of our better prospects, there's a good chance we might to honestly trade one or both of them away to basically make our defensive core a little bit better in terms of defensive play on that top six pairing. Because Lindsay right now, as you can see, he's actually a chance to, he could literally grow to being an NHL defenseman by the start of next season. He's a DFD, doesn't have the best defensive awareness, but has very good shot blocking and stick checking. So he might be like the perfect kind of guy for that top six, which means we probably need another solid like two-way or a defensive defenseman for that pairing. Meanwhile, like if we had these two guys playing, we'd have 4 offensive defensemen in our defensive core, which to me would probably scream a little bit bad in a way because it would probably give us too many goals against. So our defensive core is definitely going to be a lot different than it was in the last number of years. And then from an offensive standpoint, like I said, we'd let go of Fido, which doesn't impact us like entirely that much, but definitely our team is starting to drop off in terms of like our depth. We have a lot of guys that are pending free agents at the upcoming part of the season. I didn't even realize that actually in the last episode, but Makinen and Giordano are pending UFAs at the end of this upcoming season. You have Ashton, who's a pending UFA. Kazanov's an RFA. Bigris is a UFA. Like, this is a very big year for this team, and if they do not have some good success, I honestly don't know if we'll ever win a Stanley Cup in the series if we do not win it this upcoming season. So we got to make do with what we have. But yeah, a lot of big people are not locked up into next season. The good thing is our defensive core pretty much is. But our offensive core and our goaltending, we don't really know what to expect as these years go on. So with that said, let's get your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we'll get into our off-season due diligence, and then we will probably simulate some of the season. Not maybe too much. It depends on really how our team is doing at that point in the season or not. So the first and only comment is from Sound Otaku, who says, maybe Fido and Solovyov are clubhouse cancers who drag down the team morale. Komatov and Nicholas will run as a 1A, 1B. You should probably move from both of those lower-end offensive defensemen and sign a DFD and a two-way defenseman in free agency. I think you can play Lindsay in the top 6 even if he stays as a 75 overall or only grows to a 76 or 77. So yeah, he's totally right about that with Lindsay, for instance, like, because Lindsay probably could play as a 76, 77, that would be fine. So we basically need to assign ourselves just a DFD and a two-way defenseman to kind of basically give us a higher chance that that defensive core is ready to go. And we have to find a way to probably part with those 2 offensive defensemen, as he was mentioning, and as I mentioned earlier too. And yeah, he might be right though with Fido and Solovyov being locker room cancers. Now what's kind of interesting with them is those 2 players, I really like those players, but when we let them go, literally nobody lost morale. So it's not like they were like the favorite players on the team and it maybe drags down this team. Maybe this team can find a new gear without those guys in the lineup. Even though Solovyov was like a really long-term goalie here, for some reason nobody really batted an eye about him leaving. Alfredo was here for a decent chunk of time, but nobody batted an eye with him going as well. So will be interesting to see if this team has a bit better of results in the postseason because those guys are gone or not. So first and foremost, what we're going to do is look to find a trade for those two offensive defensemen. I kind of want to hold on to Granato because he's a low 4 and he's been developing quite nicely. Erzberg, on the other hand, has good trade value, so it does make sense to trade him. It would be really nice to hold on to Granato, but he's literally listed as a top 6. The only way I could literally hold on to him is if he was ready to go for that top 4 already, and then I would get rid of somebody else in that top 4, but I think, yeah, it probably makes sense to trade both of them just because we got too many offensive defensemen. Like, if Holmstrom wasn't an offensive defenseman, we would be okay, probably holding on to one of them, but since Holmstrom is an offensive defenseman, having 3 to 4 offensive defensemen out of 6 defensemen is probably not a strong idea. So, yeah, we're definitely going to look into flipping both those guys. So we could probably, are we on the trade finder, or did I just go propose trade? I am on find trade, okay. Let's see if we can find a deal for both those guys, and then we'll look into what we could potentially sign. Or maybe I should sign them first and then trade these guys. Yeah, I think that might actually be not a bad idea, just to kind of make sure we actually get what we're looking for. So, did I actually sign any coaches? I don't remember if I needed coaches in this episode too or not, because nobody reminded me. No, we do not. We just need a goalie coach, I think. Did I offer a coach a contract in last episode? No, I didn't. Okay, let's go for the goalie coach first, just because I don't want to forget about this. So let's go teaching grade. Since we have 2 young goalies, it would be nice to have a good goalie coach with A+ rating. So hopefully Malik will accept to be our NHL goalie coach, and then that will get those guys hopefully developing into being really good goaltenders for us, especially in playoff scenarios. So we'll bring him in, and that would be good for the coaching staff. And scouts, we don't need anything. So yeah, but let's literally just get to those free agent defensemen. So I don't really know who to sign in free agency. I didn't really kind of look in between episodes what I want. Siren Talk was recommending a DFD and a 2-way defenseman. So let's look a little bit more into that if we can here. So if we go to, we probably want a right defenseman and a left defenseman. Preferably the 2-way, a right-handed D-man, just because we have Valenzi, who could probably be playing in our top 6 this season. So we probably want the 2-way to be a right D-man, if possible. Is Aston a 2-way D? He's an offensive D. What the hell, man? This guy could probably similarly good too, but goddamn, it's kind of crazy how many offensive defensemen there is in this league. Riccardo Girardi. He's a DFD. Like I said, I'm probably looking for a 2-way defenseman on the right side, if possible. Wong? Yeah, Aiden Wong would work. I mean, his passing's fantastic. His offensive awareness, not so much. Does have some pretty solid shooting. Let's take a look at his stats recently. 11 goals last season, 12 goals the year before. Yeah, he's definitely a goal-scoring defenseman, which is kind of interesting because he's not the highest point producer, but he will score goals. Mind you, 5 of his 12 power play goals that 1 year came on the power play. Playoff-wise, he's only played 9 games in the AHL, had 3 assists. He could be interesting. Definitely has had a long career at this point. Well, 455 games at least, with barely any NHL playoff experience, but he is a right D-man. Does he fit our defensive core a bit? He looks like he might fit our top 6 pairing as well, which is fantastic. So I think Aiden Wong might be the option. The only thing is he wants 3 years at 2.85, which I don't really want to commit to somebody more than a year right now. How's Mullen at a 25-year-old defenseman? He's a 2-way as well. That might be hard to pass up on because he's a young defenseman, but he might honestly grow into being a top 4 defenseman. But he has played only just basically 1 season. He had 15 points in 82 games the year before he played 2 NHL games. So he hasn't really got much of a chance at the NHL level. But he has really good passing. He's also got some decent defensive stats. Like, he's definitely not as offensive, it seems like, as the other guy, but he could be something decent. He's actually shoots left, but he's a right D. I don't know if I want that then. If he was a right-handed shot, that'd be great. I might come back to Mason Mullen, though. He honestly, it might be better than Wong. He does want more money, is the thing, but he is younger, so we could marinate him a little bit better. What else we got here? Maybe Jang. We're kind of looking at the younger defenseman a bit. Luke Jang could probably work as well. He's pretty much the exact same type of thing as these other guys. Scored 11 goals last season. His plus minus hasn't been good, but Winnipeg, they actually have made the playoffs 2 of those years where he was minus. Actually, the first year he made it, they did make it quite far, like second round. Luke Jang might not be bad, to be honest. What's he asking for? 2.4 for 2 years as a 26-year-old. And he is an actual right-handed shot, which I kind of like a little bit more just because the other guy was a left-handed shot. Yeah, I think I'm going to go for Luke Jang as the signing. He's young, and he is an actual right-handed shot. I would have gone for Mullen, but Mullen's asking also for basically $1.45 million more for the same amount of term, just because he's 1 year younger. So let's go for Luke Jang. We will do a 2-year deal for him, but there is a chance we could flip him in the offseason if he doesn't work out well here. We will go a 1-year or 2-year deal. He does like our organization a lot, so we should be able to get him for like 2.2 for 2 years. So let's see if he'll accept that. He'll get back to us in a few days. Hopefully nobody else goes for him. I don't think anybody would, but at least this early into free agency. So there's one of our defensemen taking care of them. We'll probably get a DFD that's left-handed with this one. Somebody that's literally what Lindsay could be around in terms of overall. Somebody that might be okay being healthy scratched. There is Fisher, who used to literally play with us, but he's a 2-way. So we're literally looking for just a defensive version of that. Dennis Lukowicz, offensive defenseman, not really a surprise. Kyler Calder? No. Morrow, 2-way defenseman. Let's actually just scroll over here. There you go. Now I can see that this guy's a DFD. Jeff Barker. Actually, some pretty solid defensive stats. 85 defensive awareness, solid shot blocking. Stick checking is a little low. In terms of the NHL, he only has played 10 career games, so he's basically like a prototypical depth defenseman. Since he's listed as a depth defenseman, I think I'm going to sign him. If he was listed as a top 6, I'd be a little bit weary just because Lindsay should be probably playing over this guy. So I think we're going to go for Barker as the other signing. He does want a 2-year deal, but I'm going to give him only a 1-year deal. And his interest actually didn't even drop down by going down by a year. That's actually nice. He doesn't expect that much either for an entire year, so we could definitely drop this down to like probably something like 1.15. And I don't think anybody else is going to go after somebody like this. So let's bring in Jeff Barker as that depth defenseman / top 6 defender. And that's probably all we need. Which means all we need to do now is just trade away those other guys, which is going to be interesting to see what we get in return for them. Erzberg should fetch us a decent amount because he's still got that elite potential. Meanwhile, the other guy, I'm not too sure exactly if he will fetch us a lot. Like I said, it kind of sucks to trade Granato because he's been a guy that's developed quite well for where he was drafted. But it makes sense that we don't hold on to all these offensive defensemen. So let's once again sort this by overall rating. Granato, when was he drafted? When was he drafted again? Yeah, see, he was a second round low 4 that's actually developed quite nicely. Like, he doesn't have the best passing yet, but he could be a decent offensive defenseman at the NHL level. Only 2 years in the AHL, 29 and 39 points, no playoff experience. So we're going to add him to this deal. I didn't want to go to edit trading block, goddamn, man. Oh, I always forget that it's a different button. Let's go back to defense just to make this a bit easier so we could actually go to the right guys. So we'll go Erzberg and the other dude too. So Erzberg and Granato. I don't know if there's going to be a team that wants both of them or not. Nobody has interest in both. At least that's what it says right now. So we're going to have to probably go propose trade or edit our trading block. Let's just go propose trade. We could probably figure out a deal on our own. We're usually pretty good with making good deals. So if we go defense, then we add in Erzberg, who's got, like I said, a lot of value. Probably more than he should have at this point. And we add Granato to this deal. There is going to be a lot of teams actually that have interest in both of them. The thing is, I don't think we really need too much in terms of regular roster players right now. So I might just take back picks. Because our defense, we just signed 2 people probably. Which means that's fine. Defense, yeah, defense is fine. Young goalies are fine. Offense, I got to double check that we don't need a forward. Let's see. So technically, if we're looking at our forwards right now based on rating, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13 with Sprooks. 14th with Popov or Trotter. We might need some depth forwards, but these guys probably are worth way more than depth forwards, so we'll probably just trade them for picks. That's probably the best bet. Like I was saying, Erzberg was a first-round selection as well. They were both drafted the exact same year, so we literally drafted them in first round and second round, but just doesn't seem like they're going to work out here. I think Erzberg could be actually really good. That's the only thing I'm scared about, because he's got 90 passing, 87 offensive awareness, and he's also got 3.5-star shooting. So I think he could have a really good rookie year, but he just doesn't fit our defense because we got so many OFDs. If Howden wasn't an OFD, if Holmstrom wasn't, I'd hold on to him, but we got to part ways with him. So probably preferably we trade these guys to the Western Conference, to a team that actually needs both of them, so they actually both don't just sit in the AHL for another year. So does the Ducks have any use for actually two defensemen that could play on their defensive core? The answer is there's going to be some competition, because their defensive core is quite weak. When you look at it on paper, literally their best defenseman's an 81. So the Ducks definitely could use both of them. So we'll come back to Anaheim, but that might be the number one play. I don't want to trade him to an Eastern team, because I feel like then he could come back to bite me more. So Western team's probably the play. The Calgary Flames, their defensive core could definitely use both of them too, because they have a 90 and an 88, but afterwards it drops to an 80, a 77, 76, 76. So they would get the play, hypothetically, with the Flames for sure too. The Flames might be the best call, just because they actually should play, unless they sign some more people in free agency. What else we got here? Let's check on Chicago. We've made a lot of deals with Chicago. Probably don't want to make more. Former defenseman Novoselicev, Haken, former defenseman. I don't really want to give them more former players, because they've already won a cup with these former players. So it's like, I don't know about that. So we won't give them to Chicago. Colorado. There'd be some internal competition. I'd say the Flames is preferred still. Dallas has a lot of former players already, so let's just send them to somewhere else. The LA Kings. I mean, the LA Kings did have a guy named Erzberg back in the day. They also had a guy named Granato in the day, so it might make sense to play them there. But one of them would likely be scratched. So I don't like about the Kings. Nashville. Nashville's a pretty good team. They do need more defensemen too. And they are probably tied up on cap, does it say? Let's see, once it pops up on the bottom. No, they have $8 million in cap space. That's not bad. So they might go after for some free agent defensemen, though. I think Calgary is still preferred, to be honest. Send both these guys. San Jose. I mean, San Jose did have Granato back in the day, too. They could definitely use them. They're more of a rebuilding team, I think, too, right? So they probably wouldn't want to give up draft capital. Seattle? What about you? Seattle could use them, too. They do have that really good defenseman, Mercier. I think that's fine. It's tough to say, man. Tough to say. You know what? Let's like a look at the Flames and what they would offer first, and then we might come back to the Kraken again. But I want to see what the Flames would have on the block potentially. They don't have their first on the block, but they do have their second rounders, which means they are relatively contending. We could get maybe a first round pick still for them, though. I honestly might be able to get a first rounder from the Calgary Flames for both these guys. They don't have the first on the block, but I might be able to get a first and maybe snag even like another late pick. Like if I had to do a first and a third for Granato and Erzberg, that might get rejected, but I might be able to still snag multiple things. So let's try to make a deal with the Flames. So Erzberg and Granato for a first and a third. Would that work? Or would I have to take a first and a fourth or a first and a fifth? Something like that. Let's see what it works. And that's rejected. So if I take out that third and move it back to the fourth instead, would that work instead? The answer is no. What if I move that back to a fifth? I want to see if I could get an extra pick at least, because I might be able to get straight up for the first, but I want to see if I could get extra in this deal or not. Fifth is rejected, so if I get rid of the fifth Would a 6th round pick work? Still rejected. They like Erzberg, but it says that they don't want Granato, which kind of makes no sense to me with how their defense core is situated. So a 7th round pick on that first, that's still rejected. So what about a first just straight up for Erzberg and Granato? Erzberg was a former 1st round pick. Granato could be a decent player. Let's see if that works. And that's accepted. Okay, so they didn't want to give me the extra pick, but a straight up 1st round pick for 2 prospects I'm not going to use. I think that's a good deal. That's a pretty solid deal. So that deal has been made. We have our free agent signings that should accept soon. I don't know if we're going to be at the floor yet, so we might need to sign a cap whale, or maybe not a cap whale, like a depth forward to like 3 or 4 million, but that's a pretty nice, tidy bit of work, I think, and it should help out the Flames a bit too with their defensive core. As if now, if we look at their defensive core on paper, with our boys that we just traded them, you can see Erzberg and Granato literally fit pretty much right into that defensive core, which I think is good for them. And I think Erzberg literally could be a really solid rookie once he gets to the NHL. So that's a nice little tidy bit of work. Should benefit both teams. And who knows what that 1st round pick will end up becoming for us this upcoming season. But I think that's all we need to do. Let's advance a few days, and we will see if we get some accepts on those free agents. And if they don't accept, then we might have to look for somebody else. But they probably will accept. Let's see. So there's 1 day. There's 2 days as we get the goalie coach. That's great because he's got really good teaching. So hopefully he helps out the young goalies. And then let's see what we got here. We do get Barker on board, and we also do get Jang. So Barker and Jang are on board on our defensive core, so that's good. Are we at the cap floor? Because I'm a little bit concerned about that. No, we are not. This team is below the cap floor with how good they look. So we probably need a depth forward that's making like... It's because we have 2 goalies that are making not a lot. So we will probably just sign some depth forwards, I guess. We'll sign 2 depth forwards like we normally do. We might not even play them in the NHL. Really depends. But let's go to free agents and just sign some 77s. And they could maybe play on our team next season. Or at least compete for a spot. It's going to be interesting to see where our former players sign. We got to do that in this episode too. Let's sign Drouin Delorier. He's only 25. He's got good defensive awareness and good face-offs. He can compete with Russell for that 4th line job. So he wants a 2-way deal, but obviously we are looking for money. So we need to give this guy like... We'll give him $4 million bucks. I know it's kind of unrealistic doing this type of thing, but it's only just to get us cap compliant. So... Drouin Delorier is on board as a depth center. We'll also get a winger around the same overall. Maybe Gaudet. It's actually not bad. Jacques Gaudet. Actually got 4-star shooting. Was he in the NHL last year? No, he was in the AHL. He's never played an NHL game, but he's been a 20-goal scorer in the AHL. 30-goal scorer one time. So, yeah, he's going to be a depth forward for us, and maybe he'll get a chance to become a top 6 forward for us when there's injuries. Not the best offensive awareness, but good shooting. So we'll sign him up as well. 1-year deal for him. And we'll also give him like $3 million bucks. And that should hopefully make us around cap compliant. Well, let's do the 3.5. And if that doesn't make us cap compliant, we might have to still make some more signings, which is kind of ridiculous. But considering we've been competing for the cup all these years and we still aren't cap compliant, we are going to definitely need that money next offseason now when it comes to it. All right, so if we go to proposed trade now, are we cap compliant? No, we are not. God damn, man. How much below the cap are we? We have $30 million in cap space. Oh, yeah, the 2 RFAs. I forgot about the RFAs. I don't know how I forgot about them. So those 2 guys will help us be cap compliant. So I might not have needed to sign 2 cap whales because of the RFAs, but we should be pretty much good to go just in case. Gives us a little bit more depth, which is not a bad issue to have. So let's go to the 31st, see if any of the RFAs start accepting or not, which is Carlton and Holmstrom. So basically our second pairing for next season. No, thank you. We aren't making any trades. Emilio Russell's been offer sheeted. I'm kind of surprised on that. I didn't even remember he was an RFA. Let's just match the offer on that. It's a 2-year deal, which kind of sucks because I wouldn't have given him a 2-year deal, but we might as well just give him it. We could easily trade him if need be. Let's see, anybody else getting qualified? So far, not the case. Let's see, 31st. Both RFAs are still holding out. Let's go back to them and see how much it's going to cost us. I didn't want to go free agents, goddamn man. It's just Holmstrom and Carlton, I think, left that need money, if I'm not mistaken. And we have a lot of cap space. So, no, I didn't want to go unsigned. I was scared for a second there. Oh, yeah, Mishenko is also an RFA, so it's good we kept some of our cap space because I almost made a mistake there. Mishenko still wants a 3-year deal, but it's not too much money. I'm going to talk him down a little bit and still sign him for 3 years. I think that's not a bad deal for a guy that's a second/third line guy. Because we are going to probably lose Biggers in the offseason anyways coming up, so I'll see if Mishenko accepts that. Carlton, are you still asking for a lot of money? That's not bad when you think about it for a top 4. I might want to give some of these guys multiple years. Trying to think if it should give him a lot of money or not. Because if you look at our defensive prospect pool, I mean, Lindsay, like I said before, Jersina, I mean, there's some okay prospects, but I think I might honestly commit to some of these guys maybe longer term than I was anticipating. 1 year for Holmstrom at 5.5. We'll just do that for Holmstrom. And then Carlton, let's see, what is he asking again for? 6.85. That's not really that bad for a top 4 defenseman in this portion of the franchise mode. So, you know what? Carlton, you could take that money. It might be a bad idea doing that, but it's no clause involved, so we could literally trade him if need be. But might as well sign some of those guys, and we can make some tougher decisions when it comes to it. Alright, so with that said, we are good on all of that. So we will continue to simulate up to next season, and we'll have to take a look at early where our former guys signed. I'm kind of scared, though, because I feel like Solovyov, for some reason, would just sign with a team that's a rival. And it would kind of hurt us a little bit. So there's Mishenko accepting, Carlton accepts, and Holmstrom is also accepted. Perfect. I don't know about that deal with Carlton. It's going to be interesting to see if he lives up to that expectation, but he's going to literally be playing in our top 4, and he's getting paid top 4 type of money. It's not like he's getting paid $15 million like some defensemen are asking for. Like, if you think about what Tatar asked for, taking a defenseman for 6.85 really isn't that bad. So let's get the sim up to next season already. We'll get our lineup set up, but we'll first and foremost look where our former guys signed, because I think that's going to be really interesting to see, just because those guys have been part of this team for a while. So let me actually take a look at the captains for a second here. So Makinen's still an assistant, Crane's still the captain, Howden's still an assistant. That's perfect. I'm interested to see how those young goalies do this season. Like, I think that's going to be the biggest X factor for our team, is how good those goalies do with this roster. Because Solovyov usually did pretty decent with our team in the playoffs, not necessarily in the regular season. So here's on how they will simulate. Alright, so let's first and foremost find those former players and see where they went. Because I honestly have no idea where they would sign. Where is the search option again? Oh yeah, there it is. Alright, so first and foremost, we're going to look for Sealfido, because I feel like I like Tatar better than Sealfido, so I'll go Sealfido, Tatar, and then we'll find out about Solovyov. So Sealfido, right? Sealfido? No, it's definitely Sealfido. I'm trying to remember how it was spelled now. I think it was like that. Sealfido? Yeah, I think it was like that. Yeah, it was. Okay, he signed with the Washington Capitals, so he's within our division, so that's not ideal. And he's an 88 at 27. He got a no movement clause, so shout out to him for securing the no movement. And $15.48 million. Well, I was not going to give him a big contract like that for 6 years as well. So Sealfido just secured the bag. Yeah, we would not have been able to give him that much money. For sure. Oh my god. It'll be interesting to see how he plays with that contract. But first 3 years are no movement clause, then it becomes a 29-team no trade. So he's only able to get dealt to 4 different teams. Not 3 different teams. 3 different teams in those last 3 years. So shout out to Sealfido. I forgot that he was Polish. So interesting right there. So Sealfido off to the Washington Capitals. Alright, well that's the first one. What about Tatar, who was one of our best defensemen on this team? Where is Houtenen's good old friend going? The answer is Buffalo. Yeah, I feel bad for him. Signing in Buffalo is not a place you want to go, really, but let's see what he got in terms of money. He also got a no movement clause. 15.035. So the two guys we let go of made a combined total of $30 million right now. 3-year deal only, though. So it's not long term for Tatar, but he is getting a lot of money, and it's probably a full no move. No move for the first 2 years, and then a modified no trade for the last year with 29 teams no trade. Hey, that's actually not a bad deal, I would say. I mean, the money's a bit expensive, of course, but you're not signing him long term. The no movement clause for the first 2 years is okay, because he's not going to be dropping off that hard, I don't think. And in the third year, he could potentially get dealt. So that's an interesting deal for Buffalo, as they bring in a very good defenseman. And now the last one that I'm kind of scared to see is Solovyov, because I don't know if he's going to go on and sign with like a Rangers team or something like that. He's probably going to be like the starter somewhere. But where did Solovyov go? And the answer to that is the San Jose Sharks. All right, that's not the team I expected, but he will be in the Western Conference. I believe San Jose is kind of rebuilding, so I don't know if that's the best spot for him. But he does sign there at the age of 34. No clause involved. And he signed for $4 million for only a year. That's actually not bad. I'll take that, because maybe he could come back to this organization if one of the young goalies doesn't pan out. But only a 1-year deal at $4 million with no clause. Good for him. I mean, he gets to go live in California too, so he's probably going to soak in a bunch of sun rays, but that's definitely a better contract, I would say, or the best contract, the best bargain deal, because like literally he can play good in the playoffs too. So shout out to Solovyov for going off to California. All right, so he's almost like the reverse of, I guess, of getting Nabokov, because Nabokov was on the Sharks for a long part of his career, eventually played with the Islanders, and then also played with Tampa. So maybe Solovyov is just doing the reverse of that. Okay, so with that said, let's get our lineup set up now and see what we're working with for the season, and then we'll probably simulate a little bit, not probably too much, but let's make sure we have the right guys in the NHL and the right guys in the minors. So goalies, Nicholas is going to be the starter over Komatov. That's kind of interesting. He's actually at 1 overall point better. They're both listed as backups, though. So Nicholas goes straight from the AHL to NHL starter. I wonder how that's going to work out for him. Huh. He was really good in the AHL last season, so we'll see what he ends up doing. Komatov was our backup last year already. He was not very good, but maybe this is a better spot for him right now. Alright, AHL, it's Vishnevsky and Barkov. Don't mind that. Defensively, we got Howden, Schaefer, Carlton, Holmstrom, Jang, Barker. Lindsay is a 76, is going to get called up, and he's going to probably play, just because I think it's the best suit for him. We do not have a lot of defensemen in the AHL under contract, which is interesting. So maybe we need to sign some more young players for our AHL team that we drafted. They're also going to get filled with random free agents, I guess, or whatever you want. But yeah, our AHL defensive prospect pool is quite barren a bit, especially after trading away Erzberg and such. So our defensive core is going to be like that, and yeah, basically Barker is going to be scratched. Lindsay's actually going to play, which means our defensive core definitely on that top 6 pairing. Not as strong, but it should be still just as effective. Offensively, we got Dempsey, Gaudet. We also have Crane, Ragnarsson, Kazanov, Bigris, Mishenko, Nielsen, and Savage. And in centers, we have Mackin, Giordano, Ashton, Drouin, Delorier, and Russell. Anybody in the AHL that needs to be called up, Sprooks is back down, that's fine. Popov is listed as a depth forward. Hilbert's listed as a 4th liner. And Trotter's also a depth forward. I prefer Trotter to stay in 1 year in the AHL. Or 2 years, I guess, technically in the AHL. He is 20 years old. Was our last pick in the first round back a couple years ago. But let's give him 1 more year in the AHL. Hilbert is his 4th line guy. I mean, he could probably play, but is there anybody that would come out? Savage. Savage is listed as a 3rd line checking forward. He might start complaining. If he starts to complain, we could easily trade him away and bring up Hilbert. Hilbert will stay in the AHL for now. Popov, the same thing, because I can't scratch Popov as a prospect. And there's nobody on the right wing side of things. So we have the right guys, I think, in the right spots. Let's just set this up, see what we're working with. So we don't want to care about the AHL just yet. Let's start up with the NHL. So first line is going to be Crane, Mäkinen, Ragnarsson. Second line, actually, Ashton's an 86. That's actually really good. I could use Geo again as a winger. His faceoffs aren't the best. He is a sniper. Huh, you know what? That actually might not be a bad idea. We might actually keep Ashton as the second line center. And then, yeah, Kazanov could play up there. That's fine. Bigris is listed as, I think, still a second liner, though. Kazanov is probably a second liner now. Nope, third line scoring forward. So let's up the two of them because of the player types. Aside from that, who's scratched at the moment? Mishenko should not be scratched. Same with Nielsen. Nielsen's one of our prospects, so we got to take Godet out. Godet has to come out. And we'll put Nielsen into that spot. I don't really like about having snipers on the fourth line now. And then we'll take, the other one was Mishenko. Which means we got, oh man, it's still hard to find ice time with some of these guys. Oh boy, we might have to find a way to trade Bigris or something. Bigris is in the last year of his deal. Because hypothetically, if I took Bigris out, I would throw Mishenko on the left wing probably. I like Bigris' playoff performances though. That's the thing. He was really good last year too. Oh boy, yeah, we still have some really tough ones here probably. Dempsey, now should not be on the fourth line. I don't know about having two snipers on the fourth line. We could always trade Savage instead, but put Mishenko in there. Scratched. Lindsay does not need to be scratched. Lindsay needs to be playing as well. Oh my goodness. Let's get this reorganized a bit here. And we were going to play Jang, but not Barker. So we'll go something like that. Okay, the defense and core is actually pretty solid, I'd say. Goaltending is interesting. They do have Nicholas as the backup despite being low overall. It's kind of weird. Huh. The center depth is kind of something interesting to look at, though. Having two 77s down the middle. But they do have good face-off stats, both of them, and they're both two-way forwards. So that should hypothetically help these bottom sixes play better defensively. I just don't know about having Savage as a scratch, or having guys like Dempsey and Nielsen on the fourth line when they are snipers. Like, we might have to look into trading Bigris and getting him. I mean, I could use Dempsey as a center, I guess, on that third line. He's not the best face-off man, but he did take some last year. Nielsen could take face-offs too, hypothetically, but could go with something like this instead. Let's see this again. Yeah, we might go with something like that instead. We'll put Nielsen on his off wing because he's a sniper. Yeah, maybe we'll try something like that just because I don't want to have both these snipers like Nielsen and Dempsey on the fourth line. I don't really like having snipers on the fourth line, but it might be something we have to play with, at least for this season, until Bigris is a free agent. Or we trade Bigris, which is tough for me to do, but we might have to trade him since he's a pending UFA. So there's that. And then from a power play perspective, Mäkinen, Ragnarsson, Crane, Houghton, and Giordano, that's fine. Ashton, Kazanov, Bigris, Holmstrom, Dempsey. That's fine too. I don't care if it's a -1, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. -3 kind of sucks, but yeah, it should be fine. It should be fine. We'll run with this and see how it works out early in the season. AHL-wise, let's just make sure the right prospects are higher. Let's go Popov above higher than Hilbert. We do have a lot of offensive prospects. Is there anybody scratched? Nope. Okay, we'll have everybody in the lineup at least. We'll keep the rest of that the same. Defensively, let's see if we can get rid of any of these minuses. Oof. Some of these random signings are... man, we have forwards playing defense. An enforcer, at least it makes maybe some sense. Trotter playing defense does not make sense whatsoever. Oh my god. Yeah, these AHL lines, we probably need to sign more defensemen. Trotter, if Jersino works as a defenseman, I mean, it's not going to be the best for his growth, but we'll run with that for the start of this episode, at least. Alright. So this is going to be our team then for the season. Crane, Mäkinen, and Giordano. We barely have any X Factors on our forward group anymore. We used to have a shit ton, but Crane, Makinen, Giordano, Ragnarsson, Ashton, and Bigris. Mishenko, Dempsey, Kazanov, Russell, Drouin, Delorier, and Nielsen. Defensively, Howden, Schaefer, Carlson, Holmstrom, Lindsay, and Zhang. Goalies, Nicholas Komatov, and scratches, Gaudette, Savage, and Barker. Savage is probably going to lose morale. I'd prefer having somebody like Savage on the fourth line over Nielsen, but Nielsen, I don't want him scratched because he's one of our better prospects. So, yeah, I think for now that's what we're going to run with, but we might have to make a tough trade in next episode. So, there's that. Let's simulate a little bit. Not too much because I don't want people to lose morale already in this episode, but let's maybe simulate like 20 games just to see how this team's doing. Let's go with preseason focus. Let's just keep it on like skill train. Let's go 5v5 focus, sure. And then we'll go season goal. And once again, he thinks this team is good enough to compete for the cup, just like every single year. So is this the year, Jalen, that we could actually win the Stanley Cup, or are you just telling me that just because we've been in literally the conference finals for 5 straight years? Lost to a Canadian team in every single one of those years. Oh. And we're getting some trade offers, which is kind of annoying because I do not want to make any trades in this episode right now. So let's go edit, and I don't want to go edit trade. I want to go edit trading block. God damn it, man. Any more offers before the season starts? No. Okay, never mind. Let's go through the preseason, and then, like I said, we'll probably go to like December the 1st. Just kind of see what this team's up to with the new additions. And that way we don't run into any morale issues to end this episode. So, and apparently Howden was injured in the preseason, but at least he's back right away. It'll be interesting to see what Howden can do with this team being a little bit worse. Like, since he's not playing with Tatar anymore, is he going to be bad? Or is he going to be still just as good next to Schaefer? Or with the offensive core dropping off, is he still going to produce? Stuff like that. So 4-3 in the preseason in our 7 games. Not the worst. Let's take a look at some stats here in the preseason. Like I said, I don't really know what to expect from the 2 young goaltenders. Like, that's definitely our biggest wild card with this team. So Makinen and Ragnarsson were good. Karain was good. Mishenko had 4 goals. Damn. All right. Looks like we got some pretty solid depth scoring. How did the young goaltenders do, out of curiosity? Not very good. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence with them this season, but we're going to have to try and see if they work. But Nicholas had a shutout, which is surprising, but an .881 save percentage. Meanwhile, Komatov played 2 games and had an .825. Yikes. Well, if these 2 goalies don't work out this season, that's definitely an area of focus. Or finding a third-line center is probably a focus if the bottom 6 doesn't do too well. But we made our team worse to see if they would play better in the playoffs. Basically, that's why we did a lot of the decisions we did. But let's simulate a little bit of the season. See if this team can get off to a good start again. Or are we going to be a little bit more mixed because our roster's a little bit weaker? It's definitely more weaker down the middle. The wingers are still probably just as good. Defensive core, I'd say, is maybe a smidge weaker, but not by much. And then goaltending is definitely a lot weaker, but will be interesting to see what those young goalies could do. All right, let's go to the 31st, see what we do in October. See if we could get off to a solid start. As we lost our first game of the season, there's a defenseman on waivers, Sven Holmqvist. I already have a depth defenseman, so don't really need him. Game against Anaheim, 5-2 win. Nice response after a first game of the season. Game against Montreal, who beat us last year, of course, in the playoffs. Are we going to beat them in the regular season? Yep, shootout win. Philadelphia's a 3-1 loss. New Jersey, 4-2 win. Nashville, 6-4 loss. A little bit inconsistent to start off this year. Pittsburgh is a 3-2 shootout win, and the Rangers is the 3-0 win. So in our first 8 games, we're 5-3, which is not bad. I think Savage is going to start losing morale already because of ice time. Likely just because we've played already 8 games and he's not played 1 yet. But we're going to go 1 more month in this episode, just kind of see what our team does after the first 2. See if there's anything that needs to be addressed before we obviously progress in next episode. There's a 3-0 shutout win. So back-to-back shutout wins for this team, surprisingly. And no. Oh, that's actually really bad to see. Olli Howden's not had injury trouble in his career. this might mean he's starting to decline a little bit because he did just suffer an MCL sprain. He will be out till December the 3rd. So we're out of our offensive defenseman for an entire month, basically. And, yeah, we could have had more offensive defensemen, but we got rid of them because, yeah, we did. Damn, man, that's a really big blow. We're going to go with replace player on that, but that's a substantial blow. And like I said, Houghton is probably my favorite player on this team other than Crane, the two of those guys. To see Houghton go down early in the year is not ideal. At least it's early, and it's not in the playoffs postseason at all, but damn. There's a loss and a win. All right. And Jeff Barker's now been injured. He was the depth defenseman, out with an injured knee, but it's only for like a week. So I'm going to let a forward play defense. I know it's dumb, but we'll do it just because we don't have a lot of time until Barker's back. We do beat Chicago still, which is kind of surprising as Barker is back now. So Barker's going to... Actually, no, was Barker the depth defenseman? I don't remember if he was or not. Yeah, he was. So Savage was playing defense, but at least he was in the lineup. So I don't really care too much, because Savage is definitely somebody I could still flip at some point. Alright, game against San Jose is a 5-1 win, so we just beat Solovyov in San Jose. That's nice to see. If he was in net that game, I'm not too sure. 8-4 loss to Colorado, yikes. But we do beat Calgary and Winnipeg, Utah to wrap up November. 5-3 win, 14-6 in our first 20. That's actually pretty solid. That's pretty solid, all despite the Houghton injury. The thing that sucks also about the Houghton injury is that's going to hurt his chances at getting back to winning Norrises again. Because he won 5 straight Norrises. Last season, he didn't win a Norris. So this could be the second straight year he doesn't win it, just because he's missed almost a month of action. But 14-6 is pretty good, especially with how this team's worse than last year in paper. But in terms of our individual stats right now, we are 6th in goals for, so we're still a good offensive team. We're 16th in goals against, 19th on the power play, and 8th on the penalty kills. So we aren't very good defensively and on the power play, but we're good defensively on the penalty kill, and we're good offensively 5-on-5. So some weird stats again, but not bad. Not bad at all. Let's take a look at these stats on this team. So we played 20 games, and if we look at our centers here, Makinen is over a point per game to start off the year, which is great. We have Giordano on 19 points. Both those guys are pending UFAs, though, so that might be why. I would have already gave them extensions, but I want to see how they play out this year. Ashton on 10 points in 20 games is good, but a -9, he is on our second line. I could use him still as a third line center and then move Giordano down to second line center if we really want to. That way we could get people more ice time. That might be better. Yeah, honestly, that might be the play going forward. Drouin Delorier has actually been a solid little pickup. 8 points, -1. And then Russell, 5 points, 20 games. Pretty similar players, these guys. But they're both... One's a little bit better on the faceoffs. Literally, they almost have identical defensive stats. And they are both drafted actually in the same draft, literally 3 spots apart. I didn't even realize that when I signed them. That's actually hilarious. No wonder they're very similar. But Russell is much better offensively with his passing. Drouin Delorier is a better shooter, basically. Alright, left wing side of things, what do we got? Crane on 22 points. Only 8 goals, but plus 13 and 22 points is great. Zanov's actually off to a good start this year, 15 points. Mishenko on 11. Ragnarson's only on 11 and 20. And it's not that bad, I guess. But he is a -12, which is pretty dreadful for a two-way forward. Yeah, I think I might honestly move him to the top line and to move Giordano down. Yeah, I think I already know some adjustments. Biggers on 8 points only. Yeah, he's not doing as good with the lack of ice time, I guess. Nielsen only on 1 goal as a sniper. But he is playing 4th line time. Savage already has a goal in 2 games. Damn. Right wing side of things, Dempsey's on 9 points. And then from a defensive standpoint, Schaefer's leading the points on the defensive core of 14 and 20. Big year for Schaefer, I guess, on that top 2. That's good to see, at least with his cap hit. Holmstrom's also on 13 points. He's been good. Chang's on 6. Houghton only had 5 and 10, but that basically would mean he would be 10 and 20. So he wouldn't even be our best defenseman right now, which is kind of a surprise. Did his potential drop? It did. God damn it, man. That's even worse to see. I figured he would already be on the decline because of that injury. And yeah, he went from elite potential to medium 4 or exact 4, which means he could be a casualty by the age of 35 potentially, not 36. He's only 33 years old and he's already dropping. I don't like the sign of that. Carlton on 3 points, Barker on 3 points, and Lindsay on 2. And then from a goaltending perspective, Nicholas has an 896, so he hasn't been very good. Komatov's on a 910. So Komatov's been the better of the two, but both of them have played around the exact same amount of games and have the exact same stats almost. Nicholas has the 2 shutouts, though, which is weird for his save percentage. No assists from either goalie so far. All right, so let's quickly make some adjustments, and then I think that might be it for this episode at that point. But I think I already know what line adjustments we kind of want to make, because that second line hasn't been doing very good, so we would move Ragnarsson up, which would give Giordano second line center. We move Ashton to being third line center because he's being pretty dreadful. And that will give a bigger opportunity to the right guys. So I could move now. Was Mashenko a second liner still? He is. I don't know why he's a second liner, but we'll move him up. Move Kazanov and Dempsey on opposite wings. And the rest of this could stay the same. So it does make us stronger down the middle now. And some guys are getting more ice time. So I think that's probably how we want to play it. From a defensive standpoint, still looks good. So we'll probably keep that the same for next episode. Nicholas has jumped to an 84 now within a few games. Komatov's still an 82. And then Houghton should be returning from injury soon. He actually dropped down to an 88, though, when he was, I think, last season like a 91 or 92. So I am very concerned about Houghton dropping off fast. But our team still should be good, which is nice to see. I just don't really know what we need to do to make things better. Because I'd like our goals for per game and our penalty kill percentage, but that power play needs to be clicking better if possible. And that goals against us. We'll probably find out if that improves the next episode. We might not need to address it, but if it doesn't, if it gets worse, that might be something we have to look into a little bit. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode in your Calendars franchise mode. So in next episode, we'll simulate more of the season, probably up to a day before the deadline. We'll see what this team is able to do. Obviously, I think playoffs should be a thing that this team makes regardless. But I'm not too sure really if I'm fully trusting the young goaltenders yet. Maybe Komatov, but Nicholas needs to be a bit better. I think our offensive play has been solid in times, but ours also definitely some weakness, obviously, with the special teams. So we could make some adjustments already, but it's probably best in next episode to just simulate more. See how this team does. See if we stay healthy and all that too, because obviously with Houghton back in the lineup, that should maybe get our goals for on the power play better and all that. So expecting Houghton to come back maybe with a little bit of a surge to our team. So listen down below, and I'll see you guys next time.